this episode, I want to have a look at a Raspberry Pi, because these are great little units. Though they're not very powerful, they can still do quite a bit. And honestly, if you are in the market for a small computer, at the current prices, a Raspberry Pi isn't exactly cost efficient for the performance that you are getting. Regardless, it can still be a very powerful machine for running a hobby project or something similar on your own home network. So in this episode, we're going to look at setting up a Raspberry Pi for a Rails application, deploying it with Kamal. And I purchased this domain name, railsonpi.com, which is the only thing I've done so far. And our goal is to get the Rails application deployed on the Raspberry Pi and then set up the fully qualified domain name so our application can be accessible by the world. And so to get started, I downloaded the Raspberry Pi imager and I went through the normal setup where I can select the Raspberry Pi. I'm going to select the recommended OS. We would choose a storage, do all the customization. We want to make sure that we enable SSH, and then we can write to our media for the SD card. So you do want to make sure that you do select the correct one, because all the contents of that drive will be erased. Once that's done, we can SSH into our Pi. I did have to go into my router to find out the IP address that was assigned to the Pi, but once you do that, we should be able to get into our system. If it does prompt you for a password, that's okay. You can use the command SSH copy ID with the -I referencing your private key and then the IP address. That way, it'll allow you to shell into the Pi without being prompted for the password. So within here, we can run the sudo apt update and the sudo apt upgrade to update any packages that may be out of date. And just for good measure, I always run the sudo apt install, curl, and wget, just in case if those were not installed. And because I've already set up this Pi, one thing I did have to do after I ran the Kamal setup is to run the sudo usermod -a capital G Docker and then the user account. Because when the Kamal setup ran, it did install Docker, but my user, which is not root, was not added into that Docker group. So you do need to run that, and then you need to type in the sudo reboot to reboot the Raspberry Pi. Again, the Raspberry Pi is not the fastest, so it can take a little bit of time for it to reboot. So even though we have a dynamic IP address assigned by our router, that's not going to be too big of a deal for the routing part, but for deployments, you probably do want a static IP address, which within your router, you can add a static mapping for that Raspberry Pi, but because every router is different, I'm going to skip that step and let's just assume that this IP address is static. And so let's go ahead and create a new Rails application. And once the application is created, we can navigate into the directory and we can open up our editor. The first thing that I want to do is to go under the config deploy.yaml file, and I want to update all the references to the IP address to the one of my Raspberry Pi. We then need to come down a little ways and we need to change the architecture because we are not deploying to an AMD 64. That would be an Intel or AMD machine, but instead we're going to be deploying to an ARM 64 since the Raspberry Pi uses a Cortex ARM processor. We also need to come down under the SSH and we need to change the user to the user that we set up with the Raspberry Pi initially. Once that's done, we can run the Kamal setup to make sure that we have Docker installed, and it'll then build and deploy the application. And once that's done, we should be able to take this IP address, which again is our local IP address on this network, and we should be able to visit that page without any issues, and that works great. So let's go ahead and generate a scaffold. We'll just have a users with the name and email. We can run the Rails db migrate to migrate our database. And in the routes, let's make that our root page. So we can now git add everything. We'll git commit, and then we can run the Kamal deploy to deploy this change. And once that deploy is finished, We should then be able to go back to our application, refresh the page, and see that it works as we would expect. We can create a record, and that works great. So now we need to get this railsonpi.com working with our application. So if we try to go to that URL, it doesn't work. And that's expected right now. And there's a couple of different ways that we're able to handle this. With this domain, we could set up a DNS record, which we could then forward to the IP address of our home network. But I don't like doing that for a few different reasons. If the public IP address on my home network ever changes because I have a dynamic IP address or even a sticky dynamic, then my site could go down and I would have to go through all of the different domains and update the IP addresses. It would also mean that I would have to open up a pinhole or a firewall rule on my home network, which could potentially expose my network to some unwanted traffic, and I don't want to do that either. So we're going to use another service from Cloudflare that can be found back at the home under the Zero Trust. And it's called the Cloudflare tunnels. So under the Zero Trust under the networks, if we go to Overview, we can manage our tunnels, and you'll see that we don't have one. So we need to add one, and we're going to select the Cloudflare D. I'll give my tunnel a name, and I'm just going to select the Debian, and we'll do a ARM64 since this is going to be installed on the Raspberry Pi. So I'm going to copy the script, and on the Raspberry Pi in a shell session, I'm going to paste this in. This is going to install the Cloudflare service, and after it's installed, we can copy the installation script, paste it in, and it should then be installed. And if it's installed correctly, you should see under the connectors that it's been connected. We'll go to Next. We can then create a publish application route. So I'm going to select www. I'm then going to select my Rails on Pi. We'll leave it at the root path. We'll select the HTTP for the service, and then we need to grab the IP address of our Raspberry Pi. Or you can use localhost because that is on the same machine where the tunnel is installed. And we'll just put this in, and we don't need to specify anything like port 3000 or even port 80, although you could add that. But do remember that because we use Kamal proxy is also installed on the Raspberry Pi, which listens on port 80. So I'm just going to set it to the HTTP and then the IP address, which will default to port 80. We can then run complete setup. So we now have our Cloudflare tunnel running, and within this tunnel, we have the publish application route. If we wanted to, we can add additional ones, like at the root domain, we could also add the same thing. And so now we have, just at our root domain, forwarding to this IP address, or www.railsonpi.com, also forwarding to that address as well. Now, it could take a little bit for the DNS propagation, but from my experience with Cloudflare, it's pretty quick. So if I go to www.railsonpi.com, you'll see that it works now. We can create another test user. The user was created successfully and it works. So now we have a secure connection and a fully qualified domain name. So now our application that is hosted on my home network is accessible to the world. But that may not be exactly what you want. Maybe this is a project that you don't want exposed everywhere. For example, maybe it's a localized community that you have, and so you want to allow visitors to this site, but you also want to protect it from a lot of bots overseas. And so we can go to the Rails on Pi domain, we'll go under security, and then we'll go to security rules. We can create up to 5 different custom rules. We'll create one custom rule. We can select country is equal to, and then we can select a country that we want to block access to. So we can then take an action and we can block it. You can also set an or, and you can select another country. Or you can do something where it does not equal to. You can select your country and then hit block to then block all traffic to this site except for traffic coming from United States. We do have to give this a name. but then we can deploy this rule. So with this, we should be able to come back to our application and it should still work because I am in a country that's in the allowed list. But let's say I want to block all of the United States traffic instead. So the country is equal to the United States and we'll block it. We can save this. And when I come back to the application, you'll see that it's been blocked. And if that's still too permissive, we can come under from the home page our manage account configurations, and then we can go to lists, and then we can create a list. I'm going to call it the allow_list, and we want to select the IP address. We'll create this, and then we can put in all of the IP addresses that we want to allow. This, of course, could be a little bit problematic because these IP addresses could change, especially on home networks. So this may be a page that you need a bookmark that you can update periodically. But then we can come back to our domain. We can come back to the security rules. We can create another custom rule. We can then check if the IP address is in a list or not in the list. So we'll select is not in list, and then we'll select our allow list. If it is not in that list, then we can block it. So right now on our application, I do have access, but I'm at an IP address that's currently not in the allow list. And so we're going to block that traffic. And after we give it a name, we can then deploy this. So now we're only allowing US traffic, and we are blocking any request that's not in our allow list. You don't have to use both of these. You could just pick one or the other. But let's say this is good now. Now, even though I'm in the United States, if I refresh this page, it's still going to block me because my IP address is not in that allowed list. And so back at our security rules, we can look at the events, and we can see that a little bit ago, there were some requests from South Korea. There's no reason why any service or bot from there should need to be able to access this website. So blocking that traffic works perfectly. And let's say if this was a bit too restrictive, we can always come in and disable one of them. And so now we're just blocking any traffic that does not originate from the United States. And we can come back, refresh the page, and it works just as we would expect. And so I really like this approach because we're not opening up any security holes on our network through our firewall. And this all works because the Cloudflare tunnel makes an outgoing request to the Cloudflare servers. Because it's made an outgoing request, the communication has been initialized, and then it's able to forward any request from the fully qualified domain name over to our server. And so there is something that you do have to be aware of on the Cloudflare free plan. And that is that if we go up to the DNS and in the records, you'll see that 2 records were created and they are proxied. We are not able to disable this proxy, which means that all of the traffic is going to go through Cloudflare initially, before it's then routed to the Raspberry Pi. That does mean that if you have any kind of large files, then that does mean that you are limited to a 100 megabyte file upload. If you try to upload more than that, then you will get an error. So if you are using active storage and a third-party S3 compatible service, then you should use the active storage direct uploads. Cloudflare also has a 60-second timeout, so if you have any kind of long-running request, you may want to put those into a background job. Well, that's all for this episode. Thanks for watching. For more videos, check out driftandruby.com.